The moment she walked into the gun shop, Emily was ridiculed. You wandering here from a yoga class? With a wrinkled windbreaker and faded canvas backpack, she looked like she was searching for a coffee shop. A gun clerk lifted a shotgun mockingly. You even know how to shoot this, princess? Emily didn't respond. She stared directly at the gunwall and said clearly, FN Ballista, Phantom Sight Configuration, Laoola Magnum rounds. Silence fell across the room because what she just said hadn't been publicly mentioned in 6 years. That kind of judgment hits deep, doesn't it? Like a punch you didn't see coming, reminding you of all the times people sized you up and decided you didn't measure up. If that's ever happened to you, take a second right now. Pull out your phone, give this video a like. If it resonates, drop a comment below sharing where you felt that stinging hit. Subscribe to the channel. We're in this together, walking through these real stories of hurt and turning points. All right, let's keep going with what happened to Emily that day. The shop was one of those places where the air smelled like oil and metal, walls lined with rifles that gleamed under harsh lights, and the floor scuffed from years of boot stomping through. It was the go-to spot for serious folks, hunters who bragged about their kills, collectors with deep pockets, and ex-military types who treated guns like old friends. Emily stepped further in, her old sneakers squeaking just a bit on the tile, and the receptionist, a woman with perfectly manicured nails and a name tag reading Karen, leaned over the counter with a smirk that could cut glass. She was the type who thrived on status, always dropping hints about her husband's fancy job and security, making sure everyone knew she belonged here more than anyone else. Sweetie, you sure you didn't mean to hit the bakery next door? We got real hardware here, not bread knives. A couple of guys nearby chuckled. One of them, an old-timer with a chewed-up cigar hanging from his lip, his belly straining against a camo shirt. He was a regular, always boasting about his Vietnam stories, but really just hanging around to feel important. He spat out, "Nah, she thinks this is where they fix cameras or something. Look at her. Probably snaps pics of birds for Instagram." Emily adjusted her backpack strap, not flinching, her ash-gray eyes steady as she scanned the displays. Then the firearms instructor piped up, a burly man in tactical pants, the kind who's insecure about his fading skills, so he picks on newcomers to boost his ego. He pointed at the wall of assault rifles. "We don't sell cosplay gear, kid. This ain't Comic-Con." The laughter rippled again, colder now, like the room was testing her, seeing if she'd crack or run. Emily finally spoke, her voice calm like she was ordering coffee. "I'm here to choose a weapon." The words hung there, simple, but they shifted something. The mockery paused just for a beat before it tried to roll on. A young apprentice mechanic, wiping grease from his hands on a rag stained black, sidled up to the counter with a grin that twisted his freckled face into something mean-spirited. He was the sort who hung around the shop after hours, desperate to prove his worth by echoing the louder voices. His own life, a mess of failed apprenticeships and unpaid bills. He eyed Emily's faded jeans, the hems frayed from real wear, not fashion, and barked out, "Hey everyone, check out the thrift store special. Bet those sneakers haven't seen a real trail. Probably just pavement from the welfare line." The group erupted again, heads turning. A woman in hunting gear, tall and broad-shouldered, the type who masked her loneliness with aggressive posturing, joined in, her voice booming. "Ah, welfare. Nah, she's slumming it for fun. Thinks playing poor makes her edgy. Get out before you embarrass yourself." The apprentice wasn't done, leaning in closer, his breath hot with coffee. "What's in the bag? Lunch from the dumpster? We don't serve beggars here." Snorts filled the air, but Emily lifted her chin a fraction, her gaze locking onto a distant case, and murmured, "Show me the precision models." The apprentice faltered, his rag twisting in his fist, the room's energy spiking with unease, masked as more jeers. Karen, the receptionist, wasn't done. She flipped her hair back, glancing at the others for approval, her fake, nice smile turning sharp. Oh, honey, a weapon. Like for what? Protecting your latte from spilling? The old-timer slapped his knee, wheezing. Bet she wants one of those pink pistols they sell to scared housewives. You know, the ones that match your nails if you had any. He eyed her plain hands. No polish, no rings, assuming that meant she was broke or clueless. The instructor crossed his arms, leaning against a case of handguns, his entitled grin spreading. Listen, girl, this shop's for folks who know their way around steel. You look like you wandered off the bus stop. Maybe try the mall security office instead. A few more customers joined in, one a snobby collector in a designer jacket, the type who drops thousands on rare pieces just to show off at parties. He snorted, yeah, or the toy store. They got cap guns that won't scare you. Emily stood there, not shifting her weight, not biting her lip, nothing that gave them satisfaction. She just nodded once, faintly, and repeated, the ballista. Show me. Her tone wasn't demanding, but it cut through the noise like a quiet blade, making the room feel a little smaller for a second. Back when Emily was a kid growing up in that massive house on the hill, the kind with gates and guards, her father would drill her on restraint. He'd sit her down after dinner, the table still scattered with silverware no one else in town could afford, and say, Emily, power isn't in the shout, it's in the silence that follows. Her family was old money, the Morgans whispered about in boardrooms and political circles, controlling industries from defense contracts to tech empires. But they raised her plain, no frills, no flaunting. She learned to shoot at 8, not for fun, but as part of the discipline, out on the private range where the wind whipped through the pines. One day, a visiting cousin, all dressed up in labels, had laughed at her simple dress during a family hunt. You look like the help, Em. Why bother coming out here? Emily had just picked up the rifle, sighted it steady, and hit the target dead on, without a word. The cousin shut up fast. Those moments stuck with her, shaping how she moved through the world, always underestimated, always proving it wrong in her own way. In the shop, the store manager finally emerged from the back, a middle-aged guy with a clipboard and a no-nonsense stare, the kind who's rich from years of deals, but acts like he's above it all. He overheard the tail end and raised an eyebrow. Self-defense pistol, miss? Something small, easy to handle? Emily shook her head, loose brown hair falling across her shoulder. FN Ballista Phantom Sight Configuration Laoola Magnum Rounds. The words landed like stones in still water. The room froze. Karen's smirk faded. The old-timer's cigar drooped. The instructor's arms uncrossed slowly. Someone in the back, a young hunter trying to fit in, muttered, "That rifle has been off the market for testing bans. The government pulled it 6 years ago after those incidents." The manager tilted his head, studying her like a puzzle. You know the specs a bit too well for a casual shopper. Emily met his gaze, calm as ever. I used it on the northern border in a snowstorm. Whispers started then, low and uneasy. They figured she was bluffing, some kid who'd read too much online, but her eyes didn't waver, didn't sparkle with lies. It was like she'd lived it, the cold binding her skin, the scope fogging just a touch before she cleared it. An ex-cop turned security consultant, his badge still clipped to his belt like a trophy, pushed through the crowd with a scoff that rumbled from his thick neck. He was the arrogant sort, retired early on a pension, but bitter about the world passing him by, always quick to judge anyone who didn't fit his narrow view of toughness. Scowling at Emily's unadorned face, he boomed, "Northern border in a snowstorm? Save the fairy tales for bedtime, sweetheart. You wouldn't last 5 minutes in real cold. Look at that windbreaker, probably from a discount bin." The young hunter nodded vigorously, his cap pulled low to hide his flushed cheeks, chiming in, "Yeah, and with no gear. She's spinning yarns to impress us. Pathetic." The ex-cop wasn't satisfied, jabbing a finger toward her backpack. "What's your proof? A selfie with a snowball? We deal in facts here, not fantasies from some wannabe. Murmurs of agreement swelled, the security consultant crossing his arms tighter, his badge glinting mockingly. Emily's hand paused midair as she reached for a display clip, her knuckles whitening for a split second before she withdrew it, smoothly folding her arms instead, her breathing even despite the rising heat in the room. The ex-cop pressed on. Admit, you're just here to gawk. Leave the real talk to pros. But Emily tilted her head slightly, her voice slicing in low. The config handles recoil in sub-zero. Ever tested it yourself? The mockery tried to rebound, but it had cracks now. The collector in the designer jacket recovered first, scoffing to save face. Northern border? Sure, and I'm the president. You look like you couldn't handle a snowball fight. Karen nodded along, her insecurity showing in how she fiddled with her pen. Exactly. Probably saw it in a movie. We get dreamers all the time. But the manager held up a hand, signaling for quiet. His curiosity piqued despite himself. Emily remembered the border like it was etched in her bones. Recruited young, right after her family's connections pulled strings. She was 20, fresh from the family's private academy, where they taught strategy alongside math. The Ghost program took her in, a shadow operation funded by the elite world her parents navigated, erasing her from records, training her in silence. One mission, snow howling around her. She'd lain prone for 12 hours, the rifle her only warmth, taking the shot that saved a convoy. No medals, no names, just a nod from a faceless handler. Back home, at a gala, her mother insisted on a socialite, had dismissed her as the quiet Morgan girl, probably not cut out for much. Emily had just straightened her plain gown and walked away, the weight of her secrets heavier than any Joel. A retired ranger, scars mapping his forearms from forgotten battles, shuffled forward with a limp that echoed his resentment towards civilians encroaching on his domain. He was the embittered veteran type, clinging to past glories while dismissing anyone without visible wounds as frauds. Glaring at Emily's steady posture, he growled, "Used it in a storm? Bull. I've seen real operators. They don't show up looking like lost tourists. You're insulting us all with that act." A bystander, a wiry salesman in a cheap suit, eager to align with the tough crowd, added sharply, "Insulting? More like wasting our time. Bet she couldn't tell a mag from a clip without Google." The ranger pounded his cane on the floor. "Prove your storm-tail, girl, or hobble out like you hobbled in." The air crackled with anticipation, the ranger's scars seeming to twitch as he waited. Emily's eyes narrowed a touch, her fingers drumming once on the counter before stilling, her silence stretching until it pulled the focus tighter. The salesman sneered. "See? Nothing. Just another poser." Suddenly, Emily reached for a nearby ammo box, flipping it open with precision, her movements revealing a subtle tattoo on her wrist, a faded insignia that made the ranger's cane slip from his grasp. A tall guy near the ammo shelves, built like a tank with tattoos snaking up his neck, the insecure type who bullies to hide his own failures as a wicked warrior, grabbed a heavy sniper model off the rack, 9 kg, solid and intimidating. He thrusted toward her with a laugh. "All right, hotshot, if you're so bored or toughened, try lifting this barrel without whining." The room perked up, sensing fresh humiliation. Another customer, a stocky man with a beer gut and a chip on his shoulder from being overlooked in his own life, added, "With wrist that thin, she probably can't even lift the bolt. Bet she'll drop it and cry." Snickers echoed again, the instructor nodding approval. Emily reached out, her hand steady, and hoisted the rifle one-handed, the motion fluid, no strain showing in her posture. She checked the scope with a quick glance, then twisted the suppressor just so, her fingers knowing the grooves by feel. The tall guy's jaw slackened a bit. The collector muttered, "Lucky grab. But watch, she's fumbling now, can't even toggle the safety." Emily set the gun down gently, her voice even. "I'm adjusting for wind drift. You ever use a triple sight system? It takes more than muscle." The energy dipped lower, uncertainty mixing with the cruelty. Karen tried to rally. Her pen stopped clicking. "Wind drift in here? Give me a break." But her voice lacked the earlier bite, like she was forcing it to stay mean.
Years earlier, during a family retreat in the mountains, Emily's brother had challenged her similarly. He was the golden boy, always flashing the wealth, but insecure about his own skill. "Come on, sis, lift this pack. Bet you can't." She'd done it easily, then unpacked it methodically while he huffed. Her father watched, nodding. That's the Morgan way. And no show, just do. It was that discipline that got her into the program, where they stripped away the family name and built her into something invisible, powerful. A gun blogger with a microphone clipped to his collar, his phone perpetually filming for clicks. The opportunistic sort who exploits drama for views while hiding his envy of real expertise, thrust his device closer to Emily. Adjusting for what? Triple sight? Sounds like buzz from a newbie tutorial. You're bombing. This might as well log off. A cluster of onlookers, casual browsers with shopping lists crumpled in pockets. One a lanky teen with ear gauges jeered. Buzz. She's full of hot air. Probably learned from memes. Fail video gold. The blogger zoomed in. Spill your sources or we're exposing you as the joke. The atmosphere pulsed, the blogger's lens whirring. Emily's jaw set firm, a vein pulsing faintly at her neck before she exhaled. Her hands clasped briefly, she murmured. The system calibrates for variables you ignore. But the teen's phone buzzed with notifications, a leaked specs sheet that made the blogger's microphone tremble in his grip. The shop had a demo range out back, a controlled setup with targets at 100 meters, shielded by 4 layers of military glass, tough stuff meant to simulate real barriers. The owner, a grizzled veteran with a limp from some old war, the type who's entitled and status-obsessed in his little kingdom, flipped the switch to activate it. Fine, show us then. One shot, but don't embarrass yourself. Emily nodded, picking up the rifle again, her movements precise, no wasted energy. She aimed in 2 seconds flat, breath steady, and squeezed the trigger. Ping! The sound sharp, the bullet slicing through all 4 panels, burying itself dead center in the red dot. The room went dead quiet. A mercenary type in the corner, scarred and quiet until now, whispered. She didn't even use her eyes fully. It was instinct. The owner stared at the shattered glass, murmuring, "Only one person ever pulled that off." But she disappeared years ago. The shock hung thick, the mockery crumbling. The old-timer dropped his cigar, stamping it out awkwardly. How? But no one answered. Emily's mind didn't drift, but her hand brushed the backpack where a faded photo poked out just the edge, showing a young her with her parents at a formal dinner. Suits and gowns everywhere, but her in simple clothes, smiling faintly. The photo crumpled a bit under her touch, a reminder of the life before the program swallowed her. A retired survivalist, with a braid braided into ropes, his vest pockets bulging with tools, the paranoid type who preaches conspiracy but craves validation from the crowd, stepped up with the rumble. Disappeared? Convenient. But that shot, fluke. I've rigged tougher setups in my backyard. You'd faint at the sight. A pair of hobbyists, middle-aged dads with holsters, one with glasses fogging, mocked. Fluke? She's cheating somehow. You see that stance? Amateur hour. The survivalist brandished a tool. Rig your proof, lady, or crawl back to your bubble. The tension coiled, the survivalist braid swinging. Emily's breath deepened, her fingers flexing once on the rifle stock before releasing. The hobbyist smirked. Cheats caught.
Yet a glass shard from the panels glinted with an etched emblem, a classified marker that sent the man's tool clattering down. A man in tactical gear strode up next, his smirk forced now. The kind of guy who's fake nice until threatened, then turns cruel to reclaim his spot. Watch too many movies, huh? That's gotta be it. Disasty. Another guy nearby, lanky and loud, laughed along. Or Call of Duty marathons. Girls like her think games are real. The old sniper, white-haired and grizzled, pointed at her stance. No formal school teaches that footwork. It's all wrong. Emily didn't respond. She simply placed a bullet on the table and spun it, revealing a tiny marking on the side. SPC-17, Ghost. A mercenary stumbled back, voice shaking. That's a ghost program tag. Whispers exploded, then low and frantic. Karen's pen stopped clicking. The instructor swallowed hard.
The ghost program erased from records, but rumors lingered in her family circles. Her father had ties, pulling her in after she aced every test they threw. One night, after her first kill, she'd stared at a mirror in a safe house. No makeup, just blood-specked face, and wiped it clean without a tremor. Back at a family event later, an aunt had sneered, "Emily, you look so ordinary. Why not try harder?" She'd spun a fork on the table, letting it clatter, silencing the room without effort. The store owner pulled out his phone and typed furiously. Result: access denied. Data classified. Everyone realized Emily wasn't military. She was a product of a program scrubbed from history. A trainer whispered, "There was a rumor of a female operative who took down 14 targets in 4 minutes. Silent kills." Someone asked, "What's your real name?" Emily replied, "I used to have no name, but now just call me a regular customer." A competitive shooter with medals dangling from his lanyard, his posture ramrod, the ambitious type who steps on rivals to shine in tournaments, but fears true unknowns, advanced with a chuckle that masked his unease. Ghost tag? Fake engraving. I've won nationals. You couldn't touch my scores on a good day. A few enthusiasts, club members with matching shirts, one with the clipboard, taunted, fake. She's all show, no substance. Scores? She'd zero out. The shooter dangled a medal. Engrave your lies elsewhere. Prove it or vanish. The vibe electrified. The shooter's lanyard swinging, Emily's posture aligned sharper, a shoulder rolling back minutely. The enthusiast grinned. Show's over. However, the bullet's alloy reflected a holographic stamp and erased ops verification that made the metal slip from his fingers. The cruelty clung on, desperate. The clerk behind the counter, a young kid with acne and an attitude, demanded ID. Emily pulled out a faded silver card. He laughed. "This expired 8 years ago." Someone shouted, "She's using a fake ID. Call the cops." Another gun dealer sneered. "Ghost what? Still has to show her papers like everyone else." Emily silently put the ID away and said, "Because I don't belong in your system." A customs officer off shift, his uniform half unzipped, the bureaucratic bully who wields rules like weapons to compensate for a stalled career, scrutinized the card before she pocketed it. "System? Try the lost and found. I've denied visas for less. You're not clearing this checkpoint." The dealers, a duo with ledger books, one with ink smudges, jeered, "Checkpoint. Banned for life. She's toast." The officer stamped the form, "Deny your access or beg off." The pressure mounted, the officer's zipper rattling. Emily's gaze steadied, her thumb pressing into the card's crease. The dealer laughed. Toast indeed. But the card's embedded thread glowed faintly, a presidential clearance thread that halted his stamp. Outside, the whir of rotor blades grew louder, cutting through the tension. A helicopter touched down in the parking lot, dust kicking up, drawing everyone's stare through the windows. A federal agent stepped out, tall and composed in a dark suit. Her husband, though no one knew yet. He entered the store, the door jingling softly, and handed Emily a sealed envelope without a word. His presence shifted everything. The manager straightened. The mercenary averted his eyes. Karen's face drained of color. He didn't speak much, just nodded to her, his ring catching the light, the same plain band she wore hidden under her sleeve. The envelope read, "Urgent recall. Mission Class C. Signed by the president." The owner asked, "Who are you really?" Emily held the letter, walked toward the exit, and said without, "I just came to buy a few old rounds. But it seems peace still isn't mine." A tech-savvy analyst with glasses perched low, his fingers hovering over a gadget scanner, the intellectual snob who uses tech to belittle others while concealing his isolation, scanned the envelope from afar with a beep. "Class Z. Fabricated seal. I've decoded fakes before. You won't hack past me." The analyst's aides interns with tablets, one with coffee spills ridiculed. "Hack? She's binary trash. Decode fail." The analyst beeped again. "Seal your fraud or disconnect." The air buzzed, the gadget humming. Emily's envelope folded crisply in her palm. The intern snickered. "This old way came." Trash confirmed. No, but the seal's quantum layer decrypted a direct oval link that short-circuited his screen. In the days that followed, reality caught up with those who'd mocked her. One character got fired, another got exposed online, one loses a sponsorship or is dropped by their circle. These aren't dramatic revenge scenes. They're just reality catching up, the truth balancing the scales. She doesn't gloat. She doesn't turn back to rub it in. She just keeps walking. Her silence now carries weight. She doesn't need to prove anything, because the proof is all around her. Karen, the receptionist, got let go quietly. Turns out the shop's owners, tied to government contracts, couldn't risk the association after a quick audit flagged her attitude as a liability. She ended up job hunting, her social media posts turning bitter, but no one cared. The old-timer, always boasting, found his hunting club membership revoked when word spread. His so-called friends distanced themselves, leaving him alone at the bar. The firearms instructor faced an expose online. Someone leaked videos of his past rants, costing him sponsorships from gear brands. He vanished from the circuit, humbled. The tall guy with the tattoos got exposed in a forum for faking his credentials, losing gigs. As a trainer, the collector's rare pieces came under scrutiny, a tip leading to a tax probe that drained his accounts. The man in tactical gear saw his contracts dry up. Whispers of unreliability fall on him. The old sniper retired early, shunned by peers. The clerk got demoted, then quit. His cockiness shattered. The gun dealer lost clients, his reputation tarnished. None of it was dramatic, just consequences unfolding like dominoes tipping one by one. Emily didn't look back, didn't gloat. She just kept moving, her silence a shield and a statement. A whistleblower from the back, hooded sweatshirt hiding his features, the anonymous tipper who thrived on chaos but dreaded backlash, muttered into his mic. Peace denied. Dramatic exit. But I've leaked. Oops. You're exposed now. The whistleblower's followers, online lurkers peeking in, one with anonymous accounts typing, Apes exposed, she's done. The whistleblower mic'd. Leak your facade or fade. The whispers amplified. Emily's steps paused at the helicopter door, her envelope tucked away. The lurker typed furiously, done deal. Yet the mic feedback revealed his own classified breach, a reverse trace that shorted his screen permanently. As the helicopter lifted off, Emily glanced down at the shrinking shop, her hand resting on the envelope. The world below blurred, but the weight of it all lingered. The judgments, the reveals, the quiet vindication. She leaned back, closing her eyes for a moment, the rhythm of the blade steadying her. It hurts to be unseen, to carry truths no one bothers to look for. But moments like that remind us dignity isn't given. It's held even when the room turns against you. We've all been there, dismissed for not fitting the mold and coming out the other side. That's where the strength shows. Hold on to that. You're not alone in the fight. Where are you watching from? Leave a comment below and hit follow Ironheart Stories to walk with me through heartbreak, betrayal, and finally healing.